Good morning once again. So we are now on the topic law on sales. Okay, so we are done with the law on corporations. Ayan. So I have here a material. Okay. Ayan. I will be giving you this one after the discussion. Now, sales. So we already know that sale is a contract, diba? It is part of the contract whereby one party obligates himself to transfer the ownership and to deliver a determinate thing and to the other party to pay a certain money or its equivalent. Yan na naman talaga yung meaning ng sales. So, and sales is actually very usual to you. Okay? Bibili tayo, whereby the seller obligates himself to transfer the ownership, meaning ito transfer niya lahat ng risks and rewards of the property or the certain thing that was transferred. And to deliver the determinate thing to another party, tayo as buyer, we are going to pay a certain price in money or its equivalent. So we have essential elements of sale. Okay, kapag essential elements, alam na natin that is composed of consent, determinate object, and price certain or um, consideration. Okay, so COC kasi yan doon sa contract. Ayan, so we have natural elements. Okay, but before that, let me just add, essential elements are those elements in the contract that without it, okay, there can be no perfected contract. Okay, so it's either defective or void. Ayan, kapag consent lang, magiging defective yan. Okay? Pero kapag object na at saka cost or consideration yung wala, void agad ang contract. So we have also natural elements. Without them, okay, hindi naman magiging invalidated yung contract of sale natin. Natural elements are presumed to exist even if it is not mentioned in the contract. We have warranty against eviction and warranty against hidden defects and encumbrances. Okay, so we have also accidental elements. They refer to particular stipulations of the parties such as terms, place, time of payment, and other conditions agreed upon. Okay, so ayan. Any stipulations. Pero ito accidental elements, for it to be enforceable, kailangan talaga siya nakastate sa contract. Unlike this one, natural elements, even though it's not stated, it is presumed to exist. Okay? So, that's the elements. Ang pinaka-importante sa lahat, itong essential. Without it, there can be no contract at all. Now, what are the characteristics of a contract of sale? Okay, medyo pahapyawan natin. Consensual, kasi it is perfected by mere consent. Principal, because it is capable of standing alone or it exists without being dependent upon another contract. Bilateral, because there is a reciprocal obligation between the parties. Ayan, may reciprocal obligation as to the buyer and the seller. Onerous, bakit onerous? Mabigat siya because of the valuable consideration that is given by both of the parties. Si seller has to transfer the ownership while the buyer has to pay the price or equivalent of the property or thing. We have also commutative. The parties will going to exchange almost equivalent values. Okay, and dominate since it has a special name designated under the law. Okay, so that is the characteristic or those are the characteristics of a contract of sale. Now, what are the stages of a contract of sale? Same pa din siya doon sa contract natin, okay, na topic. We have preparation or conception, meaning this is the time that the contracting parties shows interest in the contract. Okay, nagpe-prepare na sila. Okay, this is the time na the negotiation are still in process. Ayun. Ito yung interest ng buyer. Okay, nagde-negotiate pa sila as to the price. Okay, magkano? Ano yung mga terms ng contract? If ever they reach now consensus, that's the time na perfect na ang contract of sale. Okay, here comes perfection or birth. Therefore, there is concurrence of the essential of the elements of sale, the consent, the object, and the cost or consideration, as well as the accidental elements that was stated, that must be stated in the contract for it to be enforceable. So, yun lang naman ang stages on the contract of sale. Now, okay. nature ng obligation created for the seller to transfer the ownership, alam na natin yan, and for buyer, they has to pay the price. Okay? Ayan. A contract of sale does not transfer the ownership to the subject matter. It is merely a title that creates the obligation to transfer the ownership. Okay? And a mode thereof. So the contract of sale transfer no real rights. Okay, ownership and possession is transferred through delivery or tradition. So mamaya, if we still have time, madadaanan natin itong different types of delivery or tradition. Okay? Ayan. So we have another topic, sale as distinguished from other contracts. Ayun. Sale is onerous. Okay, while donation, if compare natin siya sa donation, gratuitous. Donation is perfected by mere consent, while donation perfected by donor's acceptance. Alam naman natin, di ba, when we lecture donation or donor's tax, hindi magiging perfected yung donation if hindi inaccept ng donee. Yung bibigyan mo, it must be accepted. Okay? Therefore, donation is an act of liberality whereby a person disposes gratuitously a thing or in favor another who accepts it. How about if i-compare natin siya sa barter? Okay. So barter, kapag sale, cost and consideration is money. Pagdating naman sa barter, guys, the cost or consideration is another thing. Okay? Ayan. So if mapapansin ninyo, if maaalala ninyo, 'di ba? Meron akong tinuro sa inyo na parang ano siya, ways how to know if it is a barter or a sale. Okay? A contract of barter ba or a contract of sale? Okay? So, if the value of the exchange thing is more valuable than the money consideration, that is barter. And if ever the sale is the price is higher than the value of the exchange item, that is a sale. Pero before kayo mag-compare ng value ng price at saka nung binigay na things sa inyo in exchange of the property given or transferred, is kailangan mo munang i-manifest yung intention. Okay? The manifest intention of the parties. Kung ano ba talaga siya, sale or barter. Even though higher ang price, pero ang intention nila, higher yung money amount, pero ang intention nila is barter, wala tayong magagawa. Right? Okay? So if the value of the thing is more valuable kaysa sa price na tinransfer, tapos sinabi dito na sale, so wala tayong magagawa. Okay? Kasi that's the manifest intention. If wala namang manifest intention of the parties, ayun, doon na tayo magbe-base the value of the price or the value of the consideration given. Okay? So by the contract of barter or exchange, one of the parties bind himself to give one thing in consideration of the other's promise to give another thing. So note, consideration is partly in money and partly another thing. Ayun yung Okay, eto na pala. Ayan, the type of contract is determined as to the manifest intention. If it is not clear, eto, more valuable than money, barter. Money is equal or more than the value, that is sale. Pero kapag, even if ito, nakikita nyo sa problem, pero may intention sila, that is barter or sale, wala tayong magagawa dyan. Okay? Ayan. Contract for a piece of work. Okay. Sa sale naman, class, it is ordered in the ordinary course. Pero kapag contract for a piece of work, it is made specially for the customer upon his special order. Therefore, customization is present in a contract for a piece of work. Diba? Okay? The thing transferred is already existed and can be subject to sale to other persons, if sale. Pero kapag contract for a piece of work, the thing transferred due to the order of the party desiring it. Okay? As to the sale, within the statutes of fraud, okay? And kapag piece of work, not within the statute of fraud. So therefore, there are some contracts of sale that must be in writing for it to be enforceable. For example, special promise to answer debt. Okay, that is guarantee. Aside from that, Real properties, okay, for any amount, dapat dapat naka in writing. Noting that all of the that some contracts must be enforceable or enforceable, must be executory. So, para maging covered yan ng statute of fraud. Meaning, kapag executory class, it it must be it must be or it will be happening soon. Okay? Hindi pa siya na co-consummate. Okay? That's what I mean. Okay? When each product or system executed is unique and could not be mass-produced, the product because of its very nature that contract is a piece of work. Meron nga tayong three school of thoughts dito, right? Okay, we have Massachusetts rule, New York rule, and English rule, if you still remember. Under the Massachusetts rule, magiging special order yan. Kapag special order, that's a contract for a piece of work. Pero kapag it is for the general public, that is contract of sale. Okay? I hope na take note ito. Last time. Okay? We have also New York rule. Kapag existing na yung product, that is a sale. Pero kapag hindi existing at gagawin pa, that is a contract for a piece of work. Pero kapag English rule naman, class, if it's the material that are more valuable, that is a sale. Halimbawa, if the skills are more valuable, that is a contract for a piece of work. Okay, so tandaan niyo yung tatlong school of thoughts, Massachusetts, New York, and English rule. Okay? What about Dashon and Pago? Dashon and Pago is one of the special types of payment. Okay? Or special forms of payment. Ayan. Naalala nyo pa? Okay, kapag sale, walang pre-existing debt, pero kapag dasyon in pago, may utang ka, and because of your utang, you may pay other than in the form of money. For example, property. So, sir, kailangan ba equal yung value? Hindi naman. Mapa-equal ba siya or mapa-less? The obligation will be extinguished. How about the excess, sir, if ever, yung loss? Okay, loss na yan on the part of the other party. Okay, hindi na siya liable pa, okay? Unlike to payment by session. Na kapag hindi kulang yung payment mo, okay, liable ka pa. Pero here, in dasyon pago, wala naman. Okay, sa sale, it creates an obligation. Pero pagdating sa dasyon, na-extinguish na yung obligation. Okay? Sa sale, there is freedom in fixing the price. Kasi nga, di ba, may COC tayo, may essential elements. May negotiation dyan sa price na yan. Okay? Or, there are times na, wala ka nang mababargain. Like, for example, sa mga presyo sa malls, di ba? Hindi ka naman nakapag-bargain yan. As long as you are eager and you have the freedom to choose the item. Okay? Ayan. And the price, as a dasyon and pago, price is value of the thing given. Okay? Sa sale, the cost or consideration is the price and the delivery of the object, while dasyon, cost is the extinguishment of the obligation. Okay? May utang ka, babayaran mo lang ng thing. Okay? Okay, to continue. Contract to sell. Okay. Contract of sale is the ownership is transferred upon delivery. Ang contract to sell, the ownership is transferred upon full payment. So meaning, nagbayad ka at hindi mo pa yan na fully paid. Okay, if that's a contract to sell, hindi matatransfer yung ownership until you have made full payment of the thing. Kapag sa contract of sale naman, class, non-payment is a resolutory condition. While full payment is a positive suspensive condition. Suspensive, ha? Ayan. The happening of which arises the obligation. Resolutory, the happening of which extinguishes the obligation. That's resolutory and suspensive period. Sa sale is already perfected. Pero sa contract to sell, wala pang perfected sale yet. Okay? Ayan. So, sa sale pa din, subsequent buyer is presumed to be in bad faith. Okay? If ever, halimbawa sa double sale, okay, presumed lang naman unless there is evidence to the contrary. Contract to sell, subsequent buyer is presumed to be in good faith. Kasi hindi pa naman na-perfect yung sale dyan. Okay? So sale, vendor losses, and cannot recover the ownership of the thing sold until the contract of sale is resolved and set aside. While contract to sell, the title remains in the vendor if the vendee does not comply with the conditions of the contract. So kailangan pa niya sundin or i-obey yung mga compliances na naka-indicate sa contract before mapasa yung risk and rewards, or I am referring to the ownership. Okay? Ayan. Contract to sell cannot be considered as a contract of sale because the first element, consent, is lacking. Okay? Ayan, the prospective seller does not consent until the happening of an event. Yan yung contract to sell, ha? Ayan. So the seller only agrees is to fulfill his promise to sell the subject when full payment is made. Okay, so kailangan ng full payment before. Agency to sell. Okay. So sa sale, buyer receives goods as the owner. Sa agency to sell, the agent receives the good. At siya, si agent, siya yung magbebenta. Okay? So kanino pa ang ownership, sir? Na kay agent. Agent is an extension of the principal. So agent is bound to follow the instructions, and he or she is not allowed to go beyond what is instructed to him. Kaya nga ang mga agent may mga special power of attorneys in which kung ano lang yung duties nila na nakapaloob doon sa special power of attorney, yun lang dapat ang magiging yung gagawin nila. Okay? As to the sale, buyer has to pay the price while the agent delivers the price which he got from his buyer. At yung proceeds na ibibigay niya kay principal, as a principal, bibigyan niya ngayon ng commission si agent as part of the service rendered. Okay? Ayan, the seller warrants the thing sold when sale, that is sale. However, agent makes no warranty. Kasi nga, extension lang siya ng principal. Okay? Ayan. Next, the buyer can deal with the thing sold, si sale. Pero kapag agency to sell, the agent can deal with the thing received as long as it is within his authority. So therefore, kaya nga sinabi ko na mas mas maganda if yung authority ni agent naka-SPA talaga. Okay? Para yung mga possible buyers, they have the right kasi to inquire if authorized ba tong agent na to or baka hindi. Okay? So, ayan. The agent can deal as long as it is within the instruction or authority given by the principal. Okay? Pag sinabi ng principal, pwede mo yung ibenta through cash or installment, so pwede mo yung gawin. Pero kapag sinabi niya na ibebenta mo lang yung through cash mo na lang talaga yan ibebenta. If you go or exceed beyond your powers, then that is unenforceable. Okay? The contract is unenforceable between you and the buyer, the agent. Kinds of contract of sale, we have absolute and conditional. Okay, sa absolute contract of sale, the sale is not subject to any condition. Okay, and the title immediately passes. Pag sinabi natin conditional, the ownership remains until the fulfillment of some condition. If na-fulfill na yung mga conditions na yun, matatransfer na yung risks and rewards. Ayan. Okay. Conditional contract of sale or contract to sell. Okay. Conditional meaning kailangan mo munang ma-fulfill yung condition before the happening of the obligation. Okay, so ayan, sale is already perfected but the contract to sell, sale is not perfected. So sa conditional, upon fulfillment of the condition, ownership automatically transfers to the buyer. Okay, kapag na-fulfill. But the sale is already perfected here, ha? Okay, pero ang ownership matatransfer lang upon the fulfillment of the condition. Contract to sell, upon fulfillment of the condition, ownership does not automatically transfer to the buyer. Kasi nga, kahit na na-fulfill yung condition, if you are not fully paid, hindi pa din matatransfer yung ownership. Okay? Ayan. What about sale and lease? ownership is transferred by delivery kapag sale. Pero kapag lease, no transfer of ownership. Bakit? You are just leasing or renting the property. Okay? Pero may mga lease na at the end of the lease term, ikaw na ang magiging may-ari. That's finance lease. Okay? So, at the end of the lease term, pwede mo na siyang i-record as your own property. Pero during the lease term, hindi mo siya pwedeng magiging sa'yo. Walang transfer of ownership dyan. Okay? So, just to add, yung mga finance lease na yan, may mga bargain purchase option yan. Na at the end of the lease term, pwede mo siyang bilhin that is sufficiently lower than its fair market value. Okay? Sa sale naman, seller must be the owner at the time of delivery. And sa lease, the lessor need not to be the owner. Okay? So, one person binds himself to grant temporarily the use of the thing or to render some service to another who undertakes to pay some rent. Now, let us now move on to the subject matter. Okay, what are the requisites of a valid subject matter? Object na tayo ha, or subject matter. Now, for things, it must be licit. When we say licit, it must be lawful. Kapag unlawful yan, there can be no contract of sale. Okay? So, immediately void yan. It should not be impossible. Dapat, magiging impossible yan. Okay? Kapag imposible yan, halimbawa, I will give you 10,000 if you will go to the moon. Okay? That is impossible thing. Diba? Okay? So, that is void. It should be determinate or determinable. Okay? As to its kind. Ayan. A thing is determinate if it is particularly designated or physically segregated from all others of the same class. Okay? For the rights naman, it must be transmissible, not a transfer. It must be licit again or lawful. Okay? Ayan. To continue, goods which may be the object of sale, we have existing goods and future goods. Okay? So, kapag existing goods, guys, or class, goods owned or possessed this by the seller, okay? Existing goods. Existing na talaga siya. At any time, pwede na siyang ibigay or i-deliver once there is a contract of sale. Pero kapag future goods, these are goods to be manufactured pa, raised or acquired by the seller after the perfection of the contract. May perfection of the contract, pero yung object is to be manufactured or raised pa. Sir, wala tayong present object. Dapat 'di ba existing yung object. There is object, yung future products to be manufactured, future properties to be acquired. Ayun, future goods 'yan. So, hindi siya affected. Okay? Walang defect doon. As long as on that day or on the day of delivery, may ma-deliver ka. Okay? Kapag wala, ayun, doon tayo magkakaproblema. Objects must be within the commerce of men. If the subject is illicit or unlawful, the contract is void and cannot be ratified. Meaning, it cannot be cleansed from all its defect. Walang ratification dito kasi object ang may defect. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, sa tatlong essential elements, kapag defective lang ang consent, voidable yan. Pero kapag defective ang object tsaka ang cause or consideration, most probably hindi yan voidable, kundi void agad yan. And when we say void, it cannot be subject to ratification or any remedies available by the law. Void talaga yan from the very beginning. Void ab initio. Okay? So instances of sale of things not actually or already owned by the seller at the time of sale. Yung mga sale of thing that having potential existence, 'di ba? Halimbawa, ibebenta ko yung mga sisiyo ng manok ko, future sisiyo kasi nangitlog na siya ngayon. Sale of future goods, okay? 'Di ba? We have contract for the delivery at a certain price of a thing the vendor produces in the ordinary course of the business for the general market. Okay? So, kanina ko pa mini-mention yung licit. Kapag licit class or lawful, it must be licit when? Okay? When it is within the commerce of men. Okay? When the right is transmissible, not a transfer. When it does not contemplate a future inheritance. unless expressly authorized by the law. Generally, class, selling of a future inheritance is void. Okay? Unless na lang, if ever, nasa will that you will be owning a part of the property o kapag determinable na uh, ang property na ma-inherit mo. Pero kapag wala pa naman, possible ka lang maging beneficiary of the inheritances, wala pa, void yan. Okay? Pero kapag meron na determinable ng property, pwede. Yan yung sinasabi na unless expressly authorized by the law. Okay? Example of the properties not within the commerce of men. Okay, hindi pwedeng ibenta. Public property, di ba? Di ba? Public plaza. The Queen Tuna Park. Ayun, hindi yan pwedeng ibenta ng mayor natin. Kasi nga, it is outside the commerce of men. Inherited public service intended for development of national health. We have also charged narcotics or drugs. Ayun, mga outside the commerce of men yan. Okay? Kinds of illicit things per se, of its nature, or per accidents due to provisions of law declaring it to be illegal. Ang per se lang, from the very nature. Okay, we can say that is illicit. Per accidents talaga, ayun, may provision of law talaga na nagsasabing illegal ito. Ang per se, it must be proved to be true. Okay, per se pa lang naman yan. Okay? Examples of illicit sale. Sale of future inheritance. Nasabi ko din kanina. Sale of animal suffering from contagious disease. Okay. Kailangan nyo itong malaman kasi 'di ba sa sale of animals, kapag on the date of sale, existing na yung contagious disease na yan, the sale is illicit, therefore void. Okay? Sale of animal to be used for a service stated in the contract and they have found to be unfit therefore. So, nagbenta ka ng kabayo pero hindi naman for horse racing. Okay? Hindi fit for the purpose. So, that is illicit. Sale of transfer of land to aliens. Ayun, that is illicit ha. Okay. Next, existing, future, and contingent. Goods which form the subject may be either be existing. When we say existing, nandun na. Pwede nang ibenta. May physical existence na. Goods to be manufactured, this is future, diba? Raised or acquired by the seller. Things having potential existing, future ito, potential existence. For example, ibebenta ko yung mga future balahibo ng sheep ko. Okay, ayun, that's a future thing. Okay, ibebenta ko yung mga sisiyo ng mga manok ko kasi nangitlog na. That is, there is a potential existence there. Okay, sale of specific things. Okay. Fungible goods, undivided interest, those are contingent. Okay. Kasi contingent, hindi pa sure. Okay. Ayan. Pagdating naman sa mga future goods, we have this term emsores perate. Okay. So what is this emsores perate? Okay. So, when we say emsores perate, it is in the form of a present sale that is valid only as an executory contract to be fulfilled by the acquisition and delivery of the goods specified. Upon the acquisition of goods, either party may demand the execution of the contract. Okay. So meaning in emsores perate, okay, it's a sale of a future thing. Okay? Future thing ang emsore. Aside from that, the thing sold must come to its existence. Otherwise, the sale will not be effective. Okay? So ano-ano yung mga example ng future things? Ito, ayun na, sinabi ko na kanina, to be manufactured, to be raised, to be acquired pa, those acquisition whose depends upon contingency, hindi pa sure, 'di ba? Ayan. Halimbawa, on the date of sale, ibebenta ko yung bahay. Pero wala ka pa namang bahay on that day. Okay, it will depend pa, 'di ba, upon a contingency. Okay, valid ba yan, sir? Yes, valid as long as on the date of delivery mabibigay mo yung property. Okay? Valid pa din yung contract na yan. Ayan. Okay, so to continue, what if there is a sale of mere hope of expectancy? That is empsos pay. So kung M sure res perate is a sale of a future thing, M sus pay is a sale or deals with the present thing. Okay. So yan yung difference lang dalawa ha. Deemed subject to the condition that the thing contemplated or expected will come into existence. The sale itself is valid even if the thing hoped or expected does not come into existence. Unless if such hope or expectancy is in vain, such sale is void. Okay? So, si Msius Pay kasi, it is a sale that produces effects even if the thing hoped for does not come into existence. However, the sale of vain hope, okay, or expectancy is void. Okay, maliwanag tayo dyan na valid siya even if the thing hope does not come. Pero kapag there is a sale of vain hope, okay, or expectancy that is void. For example, yung pinaka-famous na example dito is the sale of a losing sweepstakes ticket that has already drawn. Okay, binenta mo pa pero nag-draw na pala. Okay, that is a sale of vain hope. That is void. Okay? So, meron tayong ano dito, summary rules. Res perate, expected, emptious pay, sale of the hope itself. Si res perate naman, subject to the condition that it will come. Okay? Emptious pay, the sale produces effect even if the thing does not come. Si emptious ray, Sperate, uncertain with regard to the quantity and quality. Kasi nga, to be produced, raised, or manufactured pa siya. And dito sa emptious pay, uncertain with the existence of the thing. Okay, how about this one? Emsure, the object is a feature, while the other one, the object is a present thing. Okay, so ayan. In case of doubt, the presumption is in favor with emsure sperate. Okay, example, there is a doubt, hindi mo identify kung emsure ba siya or emptious pay. Ito yung pinaka magiging option natin as presumption since it is more in keeping the commutative character of the contract. Okay, exchange of things. Ayan. What about if there is a sale of a specific things? Okay. Ayun. Meron tayo ditong sale of things and litigation. Pwede ba natin tong ibenta, sir? Sale of things and litigation. For example, binentahan kita ng jewelry, tapos hindi mo binayad yung jewelry, hindi mo binayaran, ngayon due and demandable na, okay, pinaabot pa natin ng korte. Now, the jewelry is the thing in litigation. Now, if you are going to sell that during the pendency of the case, hindi pwede. Okay? Marirescind yan. Therefore, if it is entered into by defendant without knowledge and approval of the litigants of the court, that is rescissible. Meaning, yung binenta mong thing in litigation, which is the jewelry, in my example, pwede mo yang i-cancel. Cancelable yan. Kasi hindi yan pwedeng ibenta during the pendency of the case. Okay? Rescission will not take place when the thing is in the possession of a third person who acted in good faith. So therefore, ang rescissible lang hindi magsusuffice yung rescissible if it's the third person is in good faith. Pero kapag in bad faith, marireceive yan, guys. Alam niya that is a thing in litigation, pero binili pa din ng buyer. So the buyer is in good faith. Rescissible will prosper. Pero kapag good faith yan, hindi niya alam at innocent third party yan, hindi yan pwedeng i-rescind. Okay? Ayan. How about there is a sale of undivided interest? When we say undivided, hindi pa na-divide. It makes the buyer a co-owner of the thing. Okay? Halimbawa, 3 kayo. Owners ng undivided interest na yan. Okay? The co-owner can dispose the share even without the consent of the co-owners. For example, isang property, 3 kayo. So, meaning, kada isa sa inyo owns 1/3 of the lot. Okay? Kahit na undivided siya, one of any co-owner can dispose the share even without the consent of the co-owners. Okay? So therefore, yung yung nakabili, which is in good faith, can be a member of will be the new co-owner of the undivided interest. Ayan. Halimbawa, there is a sale of undivided share of a specific mass of fungible goods. Okay, fungible goods, consumable goods. The sale of an undivided share in a specific mass of fungible goods makes the buyer a co-owner of the entire mass in proportion to the amount he bought. Okay? If later on it was discovered that the mass of fungible goods contain less than what has agreed upon, the buyer becomes the owner of the whole mass and the seller must make up for the difference. Okay? So, yan yung yun yung magiging rulings natin. If na-discover that the fungible goods contain less than what is agreed upon, for example, 5 liters, pero hindi pala, less than 5 liters pala. Okay, the buyer becomes the owner of the whole mass and the seller must give the difference. Okay? Pero yung liter kasi, mali yung example ko, that is pala, undivided, cannot be divided, diba? Kasi it will destroy its nature. Ayan. Indivisible pala yan. Halimbawa, lang, kilos. 25 kilos ang in order, pero ang na-deliver lang is 20. The owner, he will become the owner of the 20 kilos plus you will make up the difference of 5 kilos. Okay? You will be obligated. Ayan. Sale of the thing subject to resolutory condition. Okay, if the resolutory condition happens, the vendor cannot transfer the ownership of what he sold since there is no object. Okay? Ayan, ito, sale of things subject to resolutory condition. Example nito is sale of a thing with an agreement that it could be repurchased at some future determinable time. So, pwedeng-pwede yan, guys. Binenta mo yung lot, for example, given the right to repurchase after 5 years. So, after 5 years, pwede niyang i-repurchase sa iyo yan. If that is the case. Okay? How will we say that is determinate or determinable? Determinate yan, guys, if a thing is particularly designated or physically segregated, while determinable, a thing is determinable when it is capable of being made determinate. Okay, nasabi ko na to kanina. Failure to state the exact location of the land does not make the object indeterminate. Halimbawa, ang exact location is hindi naman nakalagay. As long as it can be located, okay, may remedy. Pwede siyang malocate if ever. The fact that the exact area of the land is specified in the contract of sale is subject to the result of the survey does not make the object indeterminate. Okay? So, ayan. Next tayo. The price. Tapos na tayo sa consent, tapos na tayo sa object, ngayon sa price naman tayo. When we say price, it is the sum stipulated as equivalent of the thing sold and also every incident taken into consideration for fixing the price put to the debit of the buyer and agreed to by him. So what are the requisites of the price? It must be certain or ascertained at the time of perfection. Okay? In money, it is equivalent, real and not fictitious. Kasi kapag fictitious yung price, hindi nabuo ang contract, that is void. Okay? How will we know that it is certain? Okay, the price must be certain, otherwise the sale is void by reason of absence of meeting of minds. Kapag hindi certain. So, ang price must be certain. Okay? So, paano natin siya ma-achieve na the price is certain? Kasi may mga other parties na hindi willing mag-determine ng price. Okay? May mga situation na si seller magbibigay ng price niya, magbabargain si buyer. If the buyer and the seller agrees to a certain price, certain na yan. Okay? Pero may mga other tayo na basis on how will we going to determine the price. Ito yon. The parties have fixed or agreed upon the definite price. If ito, yun na yung presyong napag-agrihan nila. Fixing of a price cannot be left to the discretion of one of the parties. If such was accepted by the other, therefore the sale is perfected. Therefore, it cannot be left to the sole discretion of one of the parties. It will violate the core principle of the contract, which is mutuality of contracts. Tatandaan nyo yan. If it is certain with reference to another thing certain, okay lang. I-refer nila to other thing which is already certain. And if its determination is left to the judgment of a specified person, halimbawa third person, okay, inasan nyo kay third person. At nag-consent naman kayong dalawa. Okay? So, price fixed by third person designated by parties is binding upon them. Okay? Ayan. Exemption na lang if it is unable or unwilling. The sale is inefficacious unless parties subsequently agree about the price. Okay? Halimbawa, hindi pala maganda yung estimation ng third person, it's unable or unwilling, inefficacious siya. So meaning, wala pang vague pa siya. Wala pa tayong certain price. Pero kapag you subsequently agreed, okay, fixed na yun or certain na. If in bad faith or by mistake, the courts may fix the price. Halimbawa, in bad faith in third person, okay, or nagkamali siya sa pag-determine ng price, ang korte na mismo ang mag-fix ng price class. Next, if the third person is prevented from fixing the price by fault of the seller or buyer. Okay, halimbawa, may nagpe-prevent sa kanya from fixing the price. The innocent party may avail the remedies through rescission or fulfillment of obligation with damages. Now, halimbawa si seller, piniprevent niya yung third person as agreed by them to set the price. Okay, so the buyer, okay, may avail remedies. Pwede niyang i-cancel, ayaw ko na. Okay? Or pwede yung ipo-fulfill plus damages because of the fraud. Okay? Ayan. How about if there is inadequacy of price? Okay? Or gross inadequacy of price. Gross inadequacy of price does not affect the contract of sale except na lang that it may include a defect in the consent. Okay? So, voluntary sales, general rule, mere inadequacy of price does not affect the validity of sale. Tatandaan natin yan ha. Exception. General rule kasi yan. Meaning, hindi, invalidate yun. When low price indicates vice of the consent, the sale may be annulled. Okay, halimbawa, may vice sa consent, minor. Okay, ano pa? Ay, yung 5U natin, fraud, mistake, violence, undue influence. Ayun. Okay? So, yun yung mga vices of consent. Kinuha yung consent mo through force. Okay, that's violence. Kinuha yung consent mo through undue influence. Okay, that's vice of consent. It may be annulled. Okay? Where the price is so low as to shocking to conscience, the sale may be set aside. Diba? It's really low. Okay? Shocking to conscience na siya na, wow, bakit ang baba-baba yan? Okay? It may be set aside. Where the parties did not intend to be bound at all, the sale is void. Okay? Ayan. Halimbawa, absolute, simulated at saka relatively simulated contracts. Okay? Sa relatively simulated contracts, pinalabas ng dalawang parties na this is a contract of sale, pero ang amount ng property is 1 million, pero binenta lang siya ng 200,000. Diba? Shocking as to conscience yan. So, they will be not bound by the contract of sale, but they will be bound by the contract of donation. Okay? So, ayan. We have also involuntary sales. General rule, mere inadequacy of the price is not a sufficient ground. Okay, for the cancellation of the sale. Exception na lang, so pwedeng makancel. Where the price is so low as to be shocking to the moral conscience, judicial sale will be set aside. And in event of resale, a better price can be obtained. Ito yon, yung sinabi ko kanina na simulation of price. Meron tayong relative at saka absolutely simulated, okay, contracts. If the price is simulated, the contract is void for lack of the cause or consideration, but can be shown as a donation or some other contract. Disagreement on the matter of payment, okay, is tantamount to a failure of the price. Okay, so we have false price or relative simulation. Ito yung sinabi ko kanina. The price stated in the contract is not the true price parties intended to be bound. Okay? So that's relatively simulated. Therefore, they will be not bound by the contract of sale, but they will be bound by contract of donation. Yan yung example ko kanina. How about if the contract is simulated or absolute simulation? The price stated in the contract is not intended to be paid. Parties never intended to be bound. The contract is void and inexistent. So, eto, void talaga ito. While the relative simulated is they will be bound by the real contract. What if there is a failure to determine the price class? Where the contract is executory, the contract is without effect. When we say executory, to be happen pa, to be fulfilled pa. Kapag walang price, okay, parang walang effect yan. Okay? If where the delivery has been made, na-deliver na, the buyer must pay a reasonable price. Okay? Ang question naman ngayon, question in fact natin ngayon, what is reasonable price? Ito na. What is reasonable price is a question of fact, dependent on the circumstances on each case. It may be determined on the basis of a company's balance sheet showing the book or fair value of its shares. Pwede. Okay? So, reasonable price yan. Generally, reasonable price is the market price at the time and place fixed by the contract or by the law. If undeterminable siya at na-deliver mo na yung thing, reasonable dapat ang ibibigay as payment ng buyer. What is reasonable? Again, pwedeng book value sa balance sheet nila or pwedeng the fair market value that was existent, okay, on the time of sale. Let us now proceed to the concept of earnest money. Earnest money are also known as ARAS. Okay, we are going to distinguish it to the option money. Okay, when we say earnest money class, okay, that is a partial payment of the purchase price and considered proof of the perfection of the contract. Meaning, kapag nagbayad ka and you are earnest, nagbayad ka ng earnest money, 1,000 for a selling price of 25,000. Meaning, that is part of your payment, down payment na yan. Therefore, you have a balance of 24,000. Pero kapag option money, the option money is not part of the selling price. It is independent, separate and distinct. So if you give an option money, okay, halimbawa, you will have to think pa or decide, ayun, para hindi siya mabenta sa other persons, nagbigay ka ng option money for you to decide for a certain period kung bibilhin mo or hindi. So meaning, hindi siya pwedeng ibenta ng seller during the time fix, okay, of the option. But the option money is separate and distinct. Kapag nagbayad ka ng 1,000, your balance pa din if ever ginawa mo is 25,000. Unlike with the earnest money, that is part of the selling price. Therefore, earnest money is given only when there is already a sale. Perfected na kasi dito. Kasi kapag option money given when sale is not yet perfected. Hindi pa perfected eh. You will decide pa if you are going to purchase it or not. Earnest money, the buyer is bound to pay the balance. Okay? Which is the 24,000 in our example. Would be the buyer is not required to buy. Kasi nga, di ba, may option ka kung bibilhin mo or hindi. Earnest money, in case of non-payment, specific performance or rescission can be filed if in case where there is non-payment. But here in option money, in case of non-payment, there can be an action, okay, for specific performance. Okay? Ayan, kapag walang option money, pwedeng ibenta yan ni seller. Okay? If na-expired na yung period of option, okay, pwede na din yung ibenta ni seller to the other buyers. Ayan. Okay, medyo dyan lang muna tayo so far. Okay. So I hope meron kayong natutunan or na-refresh kayo as to the elements of the contract of sale.